the value of your business nowadays isn't really just on the financials, it's on the quality of your data, how you use that, how that's stored, the value that's within that database. So these are all key things that when you're a surveyor or you're coming up through the ranks, I still think in property, it's still such a relationship game.
100%.
It's such a relationship game more than any other industry.
People still buy people.
In the next 10 years, skilled tradesmen and craftsmen and labourers in the UK are going to be on really good money because it's been such a high demand for them. The view of this podcast will be to get people in that are looking in the industry with a different lens, are doing quite exciting different things, challenges, disruptors, and people that really aren't afraid to share their opinions. I think that's kind of where we want to go with it. Hello, everyone. This is the very first episode of the HORDE Built Different podcast. The reason why we have started this podcast, the reason why we think it's going to hopefully get some people interested and some listeners interested is that essentially we are a built environment consultancy business. So we're a group of surveyors that are a sort of rapidly growing and see ourselves a bit as the next generation of the industry. And we really want to use it as a platform to sort of share our views on the surveying industry and property industry, construction industry generally, and just shoot the breeze really. We will be looking to host some really interesting guests in the upcoming podcasts, and we will also be looking to really bring in some interesting characters in the industry, straight talkers and challengers and guys that are really breaking ground and doing some exciting things. Oh, guys and girls, sorry. Yeah, so just introducing ourselves. I'm Alex Hurn, founder and CEO of HORDE. We have like I said earlier, we have a surveying business. So we specialize in surveying and project management across all different sectors in the industry. And we also have a development business where we are delivering some interesting and mid to high end residential projects. And we've structured them in quite a unique way, which I'm sure we're going to come on to the history and how that came about. But yeah, I'm not here alone. I have our podcast host and colleague here, Oliver Noble.
Yeah, I'm Ollie, BDM at HORDE, pretty varied property background. Looking forward to chatting to some interesting people along the way. Hear some stories, trials, tribulations, the good, the bad, the ugly, and see where this takes us over the next few weeks, months, and years ahead as well. Tell us a bit about the name. Why HORDE Built Different?
So HORDE in itself, I mean, we when we first came into the industry, we started the business actually as Silence Hurn. So that was with myself and the other founding partner, David Silence. And then we kind of got to a point after a few years where we didn't really want to be tarnished with the same brush of all other traditional consultancies. Like, everyone has the name above the door. It's quite old school. It's like the kudos of the name, but the business should be more than the name of the people. So we went for a massive rebranding exercise a couple of years back to try and find a name and a cool logo really, which is quite catchy, different. People see it and it's like Marmite, they either love it or hate it. And I quite like that. As long as I always think with branding, if you're getting an emotional reaction in some form or another, whether it's good or bad, it's memorable. You don't just want to be that kind of...
All publicity is good publicity.
That's what people say.
What does HORDE actually stand for?
So HORDE, according to ChatGPT,
the answer to everything.
it means a cohesive group of people defined by a common purpose. Or it means a horde of orcs coming to invade and pillage your land. But it depends on what meaning you get. But I think unfortunately, when you type in HORDE, it comes up with a horde of zombies, a horde of Vikings, and all that sort of stuff. But again, it is different and it's out there. But I mean, in the Built Different part for the podcast, I think, again, it's the view of this podcast will be to get people in that looking in the industry with a different lens and are doing quite exciting different things, challenges, disruptors, and people that really aren't afraid to share their opinions. I think that's kind of where we want to go with it. So hence the name Built Different.
So Alex, talk to me a bit about your day-to-day role at HORDE, a bit about your background and what you get up to.
So day-to-day role for me, so at HORDE, we have a team of, I think, 17 now. We haven't really, obviously the industry has been tough for one reason or another in the last couple of years. And I think that obviously where we first started the business, we grew quite quickly. And I think just being able to consolidate and just take stock over the last 2 years has actually given us the opportunity to build a really strong team and bring in some really experienced people. So that's allowed me to move out of what you call the rat race in the day-to-day in terms of actually doing the boots on the ground surveying work and technical work, which obviously is where I my background is I trained as a building surveyor.
I like to get involved occasionally, too.
Yeah, I can't help myself sometimes. I trained as a building surveyor originally, cut my teeth in a boutique firm in Hampshire for about 10 years, become chartered, and then the journey kind of went into setting my own business up from there. So my day-to-day now is really kind of just leading the senior management team, making sure that there's enough leads coming in the funnel, and making sure that, again, with the growth strategy that we have is being implemented. So we are targeting, looking after the bigger client accounts, making sure that we're networking and moving in the right circles, that we are generating enough leads to keep the business moving. And I call it a leader role rather than a manager role. I'm a ship manager. No comment. Well, you've probably seen it and witnessed it firsthand, but I don't really have... I have a very short attention span, probably some form of ADHD. So I like to kind of be involved with the more dynamic areas of the business rather than the spreadsheet and bean counting side of the business. So I'd make a crap QS, basically. Luckily, I didn't train in that.
Like a logic.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a strong way to look at it, though, because if you know that your powers are elsewhere, then employ the power team around you to look after the stuff that you're maybe struggle.
I think you
doing everything. It's just become a bit challenging to do it all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is probably one of the biggest issues for SME businesses that owner led, and the owner are technical people that lead into leading a team, is that they struggle to let go, and that actually puts a restriction on how fast and quickly the business can grow. So I think identifying that and realizing your skill sets is probably a key thing. I mean, I've done over the past few years, done a couple of quite well known and renowned sort of business courses, if you like. So the Goldman Sachs course, 10,000 Small Business course, I'd highly recommend. Really puts that into perspective, covering like all the modules.
What does that involve? How did you get onto it? Is it invited or?
No, so you apply. So you apply. There's about 100 businesses that apply every cohort or every intake, and that's whittled down to 30 businesses that make it through. They're fully focused on growth. So it's called 10,000 Small Business program, and they're fully every module, every kind of thing you cover is about structuring the business for growth. So it's all about getting the right seats around the right table, your management team, the financial position, understanding the finances, obviously what the future holds, AI, tech, just tech stack is obviously pressed on you hard there, because obviously that's the kind of modern world we're living in terms of having the value of your business nowadays isn't really just on the financials, it's on the
process and
just the quality of your data, how you use that, how that's stored, the value that's within that database. So these are all key things that when you're a surveyor, or you're training to be or you're coming up through the ranks of being a fee earner, you don't really take into consideration.
No, you're just doing your job, and going on to the next one.
But it's weird because I actually had lunch with someone I sort of trained, came up the ranks with, who was we were graduates at the same time on Monday, worked at Savills for a long time now, he's got his own business. We were talking and we were saying that, like, back in the day, like when it was like we were networking as a group of young guys coming up, building surveyors aren't the most sociable people. I don't think that building surveyors listening to this will completely disagree with me. Building surveyors have to cover such a broad range of technical topics and different service lines. They work in silos, so they work on their own. They work on doing survey work and managing clients' requirements. And I think that they aren't the sociable people. Whereas as you're a bit more like your background is the agents, the kind of more commercial,
give us an opportunity to go out for a beer and a chat over measuring a building any day.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas building surveyors are probably completely the opposite. So I kind of built my network in my early days fully around just being the only building surveyor that people knew, because no other building surveyor would go out at all. No other building surveyors would go out for a beer or like socialise in that way. So it's just kind of like, oh, who's the building surveyor? No, it's Alex. So that's kind of, and I think although we're talking about tech and AI and we'll come on to that, but that has become more and more important. But I still think in property, it's still such a relationship game.
100%.
It's such a relationship game more than any other industry.
People still buy people. Yes, our brand is very important, but equally someone will go back to someone because they like the person they're dealing with and they give a good service.
So do you want to touch on your background?
Yeah, so I started my life as a resi agent, left college, and my family, my dad was an agent, and it was kind of a natural course into estate agency. Did a majority of lettings and property management. found a bit of a niche for the investment side of the business. So helping clients grow their portfolios via, we did a lot of HMO stuff, which then led into doing some purpose-built student accommodation, some small block in and around Hampshire, and a fair bit of buying ex-council houses, turning them into a 6-bed HMO back in the good days where you could convert a 3-bed to a 6-bed for about 50 grand, which we'll touch on a bit later, that build costs just aren't there anymore. And getting some really strong ROIs. We did a lot of sort of salary replacement investment for people. So it's big guys coming out of tech businesses, working up in London, fed up with the commute. But like, right, I've had my big bonus. Let's take a load of cash. Let's gear up as much as possible. And let's get some HMOs. That then led me to go more into a investment and development agency role. So focusing on typically the 500 to 5 million market, acquisitions, disposals, everything from drive-through sites to commercial to resi schemes, industrial units, offices, bit of everything really, which was good fun. And then came across Alex and HORDE, wanted to be part of the journey. Yeah, and joined up. So looking after the sales and front end and client sort of relations, bit involved in the marketing, but very pleased to have our very good marketing lady back again, which is nice. And yeah, just looking at business growth and yeah, building those long-term key clients, as well as the quick service stuff that come in, your RCAs, your DLAPs, but then bigger sort of also some portfolio optimization stuff for people as well. So yeah, that's my day-to-day. So, and outside of work, dusting off the golf clubs.
Outside of work, I mean, yeah, it's quite boring, to be honest. I have a 2-year-old daughter, so spend a lot of time with her, and she's getting through a very amusing age now, which is getting a real personality. So that's demanding and fun at the same time. But yeah, social wise, golf. Massive golfer.
Handicap?
Moment 5.6.
Ooh, it's gone up. Or is it gone down? Is it up or down?
It's really frustrating, mate, at the moment. Just
working too hard.
Something like that, yeah. But it's just all striking's all right, but everything else is dog crap. So that's it really. Yeah, a bit of gym and a bit of running, and that's about it. I don't have as many interesting hobbies as you do, mate.
My hobbies vast. Play a bit of rugby, although not proper rugby anymore. Just touch rugby, which for my sins, but saves the.
Don't say that with embarrassment, mate. Be proud of it.
Oh, touch rugby. It's much better for the Monday morning trying to get back to the office, and then my winter tends to involve around country sports, and so I do quite a lot of cycling now. Pub crawls, cycling pub crawls.
Is that a sport?
Yeah, I think, yeah. So on an e-bike as well, so I guess.
No, you are the definition of a country bumpkin.
Country bumpkin. Sat in our London office today. It was a bit like Caleb Cooper trying to come to London, but I enjoyed it. And actually, while we're at that, do you want to touch a bit on where we are today and this exciting chapter for HORDE? Yeah, no.
So the big news with us at the moment is obviously we have just moved into this office in Soho Square, which is a massive landmark for us, to be honest. I mean, I think I've never actually worked in London, had various opportunities throughout my career to sort of been dangled a carrot to come to London, but never had the minerals to take it, and always got, when I was employed, always got lured back in by a bigger salary increase and the comfort of not having to commute. But now I think having the business now for 6 years and it's maturing, that it's the right time to move into a London space, because everything flows out of London. We know that we're both South Coast based, and you know the type of clients you're dealing with, the real bigger projects, the banks, the funds, everything flows from London. And I think obviously we haven't gone half-hearted on the office. We've kind of made sure that it represents the brand and is a really high finish to be able to really bring clients in here and use it as a showcase to say, well, look, we're here now in London.
We'll try one of those things that people do. Click up here somewhere and we'll do a tour to the office. See if that works.
But yeah, so no, it's a really, really good moment for us really to have this as a base. And now, weirdly, my career's reversed. I'll now be commuting up to London much more often than I ever have.
Yeah, but I guess when it becomes it's not a chore. Like, you speak to some people that commute to London and it's, oh, what are you doing? Where are you based tomorrow? London. I've got to come up. But I think if it's not a chore, then it makes a massive difference. And it's a nice environment to come to as well. Pretty easy to get to, as I've found.
Exactly.
So we touched briefly earlier about HORDE developments. My understanding, we are now groundworks all set on Isha and going through discharge of planning conditions on Oast Farm.
It's very technical for you. Nice.
Yeah.
So
I keep an eye on things.
So we have two live developments. So we have a scheme in Isha, in Hinchley Wood, actually, Isha, which is 9 houses, 3 first homes, 6 high-end luxury houses.
I just went past Isha station this morning. It is very nice and close to London and looked very nice.
Yeah,
there.
It is lovely. It's that scheme, and kudos to our JV partners, JV partner Highbrook on that for finding it and securing it. But it is a really, really nice.
You mentioned the JV partner there. How does that work? What's the trick behind the deal?
A bit of background there. So we've been involved with the Developers Club, who are a network for young sort of developers, 25 to 40, who they've actually grown really, really well, and they've got up to 100 developers in their group now, ranging of sizes, skills, and areas around the country. We've been involved with them as a strategic partner, sponsoring, advising their members on everything to do with how to unlock deals from a construction and a technical basis, and planning, obviously, and funding, where we sit on a good few number of panels now for doing monitoring surveying banks. We kind of know the DD process of how to get finance. So we've kind of always been able to provide that advice and expertise to developers. What's come out of that is that Harry Stevenson Clark from Highbrook is a member of the Developers Club. And we've been in a position where we've been working closely with him now for over a year to help him deliver these sites and become a JV partner with an equity stake in them. And it's really, really good. Obviously, it has challenges like anything. To going into business with people is tough in one reason or another. Harry's based remotely in New Zealand, so hence why he relies on us quite heavily to do the day-to-day operational management, the delivery management of it. And then we also have another JV partner who's our contractor on the project, which is Trident Property Construction. So they basically are doing the main contracting element. Yeah. And we do the piece in the middle, basically. So we set up the contract, make sure that all the risks are allocated, doing the PM, the QS role, and the DM role in a way. So we're basically making sure that it's delivered on time and on budget, and then obviously assisting and leading on the back end of sales and marketing. So we have 2 schemes on that basis that you should want to mention, which is about 8.5 million GDV. And then we have a HEVA scheme, which is a lovely scheme actually, but it's been a ball ache to go over the line.
So on the HEVA Castle.
Correct, yeah, in Kent. Lovely, like rolling countryside all around it. It's an ex farmland. We've already consented.
Right on my street.
Yeah, I can see you in there, mate. Yeah. Fishing in the pond and shooting the pigeons. Yeah. That one's a little bit of a bigger project. So that's 11 mil GDV, and we're just going through we basically bought it on a bridge. We're going out to refinance onto a development facility now, and due to break ground on that in November.
Just for a nice wet season.
Yeah. Not ideal because it's right in a valley as well, and there's got a stream around it in a pond, but ground conditions are okay there. So we shouldn't be too
standard sort of foundations, or it would be piled because of its location?
No, it'd be stripped. I mean, there are only 2-story houses. There's a few asbestos barns, farm building barns that are to be demolished as well. So there's a little bit of enabling works, bit of levelling, cut and filling to do on the site. So we should be fine there. The issue with that site is that you've got, because it's so remote and so like such a bespoke location, is the roadway in is a private roadway. And it's about 200 meter roadway into the site.
And do you own the roadway?
Well, yeah. So it's that's obviously an issue. It's good in some ways because it's remote and it's kind of the neighbourly issues are going to be minimal. But on the flip side, getting utilities in, drainage has to be.
About utilities being a challenge.
Utilities costs are high and drainage solutions need to be quite creative, but they will be lovely houses. They're like sort of barn style houses with a handful of them looking out into the lake with like a jetty. So we can look forward to maybe doing a deep dive on that on a future podcast when that gets moving.
Deep dive literally to the lake.
Head first. Yeah. But you know what these farmers are like. You don't know what's going to be buried in the ground there until we get moving. Yeah.
And then Isha, we're sort of breaking ground and
Isha, we are roadways in, be up to damp course in November, and then we're due to complete in July next year. So marketing wise, we're just going through the branding exercise now and moving that forward, and we'd be looking to sort of launch it around Christmas time.
Nice. So we touched briefly earlier on build costs, some of the challenges where they've changed. It seems to be the biggest topic of conversation in most things construction, development, property. What are we seeing? What's challenges at the moment? Where do you think they're going? Come on, get your crystal ball out. Tell us the future. Well, let's go back to begin with. I mean, COVID is blown for a lot of things. It's quite often blown for build costs, inflation, and so on. Where were we sort of pre-COVID, and where are we sat now on kind of average build costs for, I don't know, let's say for a scheme like Isha, for example?
Yeah, well, I think like, it's a good point, because COVID obviously was the one where it kickstarted the construction inflation. But I think that COVID was 4 years ago now. So, you know what I mean? So that has set the new norm. And I think that the new norm essentially is now where we're at. Like, because I think looking ahead on the BCIS forecasts and where things are going to be moving over the next sort of 4 or 5 years, what BCIS is saying is that it's going to be quite a steady inflation of around sort of between 3 to 5% a year, which is kind of normal. That's a normal market. But what's happened is the baseline for construction has massively increased. So you've probably seen a 30 to 35% increase since COVID. So, I mean, pre-COVID, you'd be looking at, in terms of like the conversion, obviously, which is obviously where a lot of people measure and look at rates. I mean, you'd be at 80, 90 quid a foot to convert, and now you're 150 to 180 a foot in many cases. And that's not all just inflation. The increased regulation. Yeah. Obviously the hot topic at the moment with Trump going off at the UN and sort of saying that climate change is and like net zero and all this sort of stuff is causing massive inflation. That you do see that in build costs, because you see that essentially all the requirements for U values, sat calcs, air source heat pumps, increase energy efficiency to get to an EPC level has a massive impact on the M&E costs for projects, and also upgrading the fabric, or if you're doing new build, better building to almost really, really high standards, and that's going to continue to increase. So it's that. You've also got the Building Safety Act with which was the fallout from Grenfell, of now high risk buildings and fire safety all increasing, not only in high risk buildings but also normal buildings. So fire strategies and all the works and requirements that come out of the back of that. So it's not purely just like a material and labour costs has gone up. It's literally the increased specification for regulation has increased significantly.
So you kind of had like the COVID snap. Build costs went up, but then at the same time, house prices did a big jump in COVID because you had the stamp duty incentives. But then, as you say, just a lot of extra regulatory changes. And
I say labour and materials aren't increasing in an inflationary measure, but the caveat to that is labour is short in the UK. Labour is going to continue to be a problem.
Do we dare say that we're Brexit?
Yeah, that's an impact. And I think that also the issue now of what's come out of the market, which we can deep dive into all these topics on future episodes, but what's coming out of the market with now all this new investment in data centers and making UK a bit of a tech hub, with all this investment coming in. I was actually watching an interview with I can't remember his name, but the chairman of Nvidia. Okay. You know, the chip company, like one of the world's richest men now. He was saying that in the next 10 years, skilled tradesmen and craftsmen and labourers in the UK are going to be on really good money, because it's been such a high demand for them. If they can pull off of all of this new infrastructure work, building all the new data centres, making it tech enabled for all of this money that's hopefully going to be coming in, is that the inflation in labour is going to increase. But I think obviously the Russia-Ukraine war had a big impact on timber prices. Obviously Ukraine, I think, is one of the biggest suppliers of timber across to the UK, and obviously that's had an impact. But it's just a perfect storm, isn't it? You're in a much more volatile market and global economy now, that generally you've kind of got to get used to these things moving around a little bit. But where we are seeing costs still effective, and what we're doing on our development schemes is the new build housing can still be quite cost effective. I mean, we're building, to give some benchmarks, we're building about 180, 190 a square foot on.
That's good.
Yeah.
Strong.
And that's where schemes like Isha, in our model, partnering with a contractor, value engineering it heavily, but not like value engineering to cut the finish, but to build effectively and sequencing. A lot of people undervalue how much money you can save with sequencing works right and programming works right, rather than just looking at changing paint colors and floor coverings and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Looking at actually how you can deliver it, because essentially the longer your money is out, the higher your interest rates are. And that's the biggest thing now, where interest rates are high and borrowing is much higher than it used to be. That's a huge margin to manage, as well as the actual build costs, or your contract sum of what you're committing to build on. It's also the time it's out for,
which is also securing your exit and
exit
having a good strategy, which is why we're sat talking about our sales on Isha before we even got a brick out of the ground yet, because the quicker we exit on them, the less we owe the bank.
Well, the phone to David, our head of PM, yesterday, and he had a meeting on site issue with our equity partner on that, and they were saying, obviously they were so impressed by that exact reason of how we're thinking about sales and marketing already at this early stage. He said a lot of developers, a lot of their clients don't even think about that until they're kind of watertight or at the back end of the scheme. But in reality, that is a big nervousness with lenders at the moment, is that the market isn't great at the moment. The market's hard. Rentals are strong, but sales are hard.
Yeah.
And that's a big consideration for whether they're going to lend on something, because obviously a lot of developers move on to like a different financing product at the end, an exit and bridge product, so they can release a lot of the cash and the interest rate, but because the risk's a lot lower at the end of the project because it's completed.
Some security.
Exactly.
Security.
But ultimately, if it's still going to take you a year to sell them, there's only going to be a drink in it.
Your profits in your last, if you've got 10 houses in your last 1.5.
Yeah.
2 houses. Yeah.
So there's only going to be a drink in it at the end. And really, it's a lot of pain, stress and hard work to not really be taking much out of it at the end, because a lot, and I hear this a lot of the guys, developers, everyone thinks property developers, they're raking it in, they're flash, they're building my back garden. They get such a bad rep.
Yeah.
But ultimately, development nowadays, with all the regulation, with all the risks, with all the borrowing costs, it's a tough gig, and it's not. If you looked at return on capital in terms of, return on time invested for property developers, is probably not as high as you think, because it's where you see it probably more than me, and you the developer margin on things now, obviously 20% pre-finance.
Not get these always third anymore.
Third land, a third build, a third profit. Yeah,
the good old days.
But now, I mean, you're lucky if you walk away probably 15% profit at the end after refinancing costs and all the other costs come out because of the increased regulation and the volatility of the market. So it's interesting because we're fortunate in the way that we've structured it, where we have our trading business, we have our consulting business, and we can leverage the expertise and carry some costs in that to do development. But for people that are starting out wanting to be developers, unless you've got cash on the hip or you've come into some money, it's really bloody hard to get it moving.
Yeah. We've got some interesting conversations, I think, coming up with some guys that have been doing it for a while and been through the good times, the bad times, and so on. It'd be interesting to dive a bit into their experiences and how they're finding it now compared to back in the heyday.
Yeah. And I think while we're touching on sort of industry hot topics and stuff, I think the huge thing in surveying is the resource recruitment. I think the surveying, general surveying, and maybe property consultancy generally is at risk of not having enough people.
They say, I mean, I think I remember when I joined up, obviously coming from an agency background, I remember someone describing that agencies call surveying, building surveying, boring surveying. And I think we're probably seeing that more so now, where you can have someone come out of, they go and look to do a degree, they go, what line of surveying shall I go into? I can go into agency, which I don't technically need any qualifications for. Better if you've got them. I can go into building surveying. I guess it probably does come down to, as we touched on earlier, like the character of person. If you're the sort of person that wants to go out on a Friday afternoon and go for a few beers, and you can class that as business, then probably going to go down the agency route. I know the professional surveying market's struggling as well. Valuers, it's hard to get.
That's really tough. Obviously, that has its own issues with PI and that there's kind of implications. But that market, the PI market, is softening. But I would argue the opposite now is more important, because I think that I started early on in the podcast by saying property is probably going to be one of the slowest, property and construction generally is going to be one of the slowest industries to fully adopt AI. But I think the third surveying discipline that will disappear because of AI will be agents. Because essentially, like, advising an agent is different. Like, but people that are just listing and doing lettings and stuff like that,
transactions,
it's going to be like, it's portal led, and it's going to be more and more portal led.
And actually done by we were bringing it in, and my letting stage were best part of 10 years ago. But even at that time, we were bringing in tech for student lettings. They didn't need to come and view the property. They could do it via pre-recorded videos, like Matterports, where you can literally, it's like Google Street View and turn internally. And it did ultimately reduce our overhead because we didn't have to have so many negotiators to do the viewings. So, which will double back in terms of agents.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think whereas building surveyors, because and quantity surveyors and project managers to a certain extent, project manager's role couldn't be done by a piece of tech. They have to have the foresight to be able to sort of see the issues that are coming, deal with those issues, liaise with all the stakeholders, manage all of the bank, the design team, everyone like that. And that requires coordination. That's never good. I don't think that's ever going to be replaced in my lifetime by full AI.
We'll have to get Musk on and ask him.
He would probably disagree. But and the same with building surveying, because you have such a wide range of services there. Yeah, rebuild cost assessments, stuff like that, where it's data driven and it's fully data driven. That will be be mostly AI in 5 years. But the stuff which is actually like where you have to sit as a strategic advisor and work through CapEx on a portfolio, or do a dilapidations negotiation, which is a legal RT-Wall, which is a legal process. Yeah. Those things are covered around legal nuances and tricky kind of like legacy laws and legacy legislation, which you need professional advice to do. So I think it's going to be interesting to the changing landscape of the industry, and I think there's probably one to sort of check back in, maybe on our thousandth episode. We can see kind of
Alex is right.
We can see how many robots are sat around us. Yeah.
Might be robots doing the pod.
I was actually listening. So on AI, so this is a bit off topic, but Joe Rogan, obviously one of his famous podcasters. Something popped on my Instagram last night that someone had used AI to 50 Cent's Many Men song. Not very country made for you, but I imagine you've heard of it. Someone used AI to remix into like a classic jazz song, and it sounds like so good. And it's mental. Like you think that like that's like the industry of like artists and song and film production, all this sort of stuff, the rise of CGI and all the tech stuff like this. It's amazing how it's changing.
So I guess that's a good intro into a bit about our plan with the pod, HORDE Built Different. We've got an exciting guest coming on next time for our next release. So we're going to be releasing episodes every fortnight. Next up, we have David Drew, who is a team member of HORDE, who briefly touched on. Alex, you know David better, so do you want to give a quick, without giving too much away, but yeah, just a quick summary of what we're expecting to hear from David on our next episode.
David's a rare beast. We were very lucky to get him on board. He's worn all the hats in the industry at some point or another. Developer, run a reasonable sized contracting business, and has also trained as a QS and a consultant in his early days. So he's kind of seen all the areas of the industry, and he's got the scars and the interesting stories to talk about. So that will be a really good episode.
Looking forward to it. So every 2 weeks. We back, you'll obviously mostly Alex and I with our guests. If you fancy joining us for an episode, do reach out. Our contact details are in the description. And we look forward to diving into some more interesting people over the coming months.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I think that's what these people say, isn't it?
I think it's about right. Sounds like more professional.
Cheers, guys.